The morning sun filtered softly through the lace curtains as Cora tied her hair back and stepped into the quiet kitchen. The house felt strangely hollow, too big, too silent, too heavy with memories. It had been only 6 months since her husband, Liam, died in the accident. But every room still carried his voice, his presence, his warmth. And yet, instead of comforting her, this house had become a prison. Cora had always been a gentle girl, wise, calm, beautiful in a soft, natural way. People used to say her eyes looked like they carried entire poems. Liam loved her from the moment he met her. Their marriage was simple but full of real happiness. Until the day everything shattered. One crash. One call. And Cora's world turned into a long, endless night. But what made the grief worse wasn't the loss itself. It was the behavior of the people she had trusted, Liam's brothers, Mark and Jensen. Mark, the elder brother, walked around with a constant scowl and a bitterness that seemed almost deliberately crafted. Jensen, the younger one, was quieter but no less cruel. Together, they made Cora feel like an intruder in her own home. "Breakfast isn't ready yet." Mark grumbled as he entered the kitchen, not even bothering to greet her. "It's coming," Cora replied gently, already placing the eggs in the pan. "You should wake earlier," Jensen added, leaning against the doorway. "You live here for free. You should at least keep things running properly." Cora swallowed the sting of their words. She didn't live here for free. This was her home, her and Liam's. But after Liam died, the brothers moved in to help her. Help, of course, meant controlling everything, insulting her whenever they pleased, constantly reminding her that she was alone now and dependent on their goodwill. She had no parents left, nowhere else to go. Liam's family used to treat her with warmth, at least while he was alive. Now she felt like a burden they wanted to get rid of. But slowly, painfully, just so they could enjoy the process. "You know," Mark said while sitting down, "Liam wouldn't want you moping around the house all day. You should at least try to be useful." Cora's lips trembled. I do everything here," Jensen scoffed. "You do the easy things. Cooking, cleaning, anyone can do that. Don't act special." Cora looked down, her heart shaking. She had no strength to argue. Not after months of their taunts. Not after the endless nights she spent crying alone. Each word from them chipped away at her, making her smaller, quieter, more hollow. But deep inside her, something remained unbroken, not hope. Not yet, but something close to determination. A faint glimmering ember of survival. Later that day, she sat by the window holding the scarf Liam had given her on their first anniversary. She whispered to the empty room, "Liam, why did you leave me here with them?" No answer. Came only the haunting silence of a house filled with ghosts. That evening, Mark burst into her room without knocking. "There's a lot of laundry. You should finish it before tomorrow," he said coldly. "I will," she replied softly. "And stop crying all the time," Jensen added from behind him. "It's annoying." They walked away laughing. Cora felt something shift inside her. A realization. A quiet, fierce one. They weren't going to stop. They weren't going to change. They weren't going to show mercy, so she would need to find a way to protect herself, and maybe, just maybe, find a way to make them regret every cruel word. This was the night. Something awakened in Cora. Not anger. Not yet. But strength. A beginning. A seed of revenge. The next morning, Cora woke before dawn, her eyes still heavy, but her mind strangely clear. The house was silent except for the faint humming of the refrigerator and the distant sound of a neighbor's dog. She wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and stepped into the kitchen to begin her chores before Mark or Jensen found another excuse to belittle her. As she washed the dishes, her thoughts drifted to the life she used to have with Liam. He always told her she had a quiet strength, the kind that didn't shout, didn't fight, but endured. She never understood what he meant until now. Despite everything, she found herself standing, breathing, moving. Even after the cruelty, she hadn't broken. That meant something. But the brothers didn't see her strength. They saw her isolation. And each day they pushed the line a little further, testing how much they could take before she collapsed. When Mark finally stumbled into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes, he barely acknowledged her. "You didn't make coffee yet? It's almost ready," she said gently. "Almost isn't enough," he snapped. "Try moving faster." Jensen joined him moments later, snatching a piece of bread from the counter. "You're lucky we even let you stay," he said with his mouth full. "A widow isn't exactly a prize." Cora paused, the spoon trembling in her hand. The words cut sharper than a blade, but she didn't let them see that. She kept her back straight, her eyes focused, her voice calm. The more they tried to crush her, the more she felt her resolve growing quietly inside her. After breakfast, she retreated to the backyard, breathing in the cold morning air. The sky was pale, washed out, as if even the world was tired. Cora sat on the old wooden bench, the one Liam built with her during their first summer together. She trailed her fingers along the rough edge, remembering the laughter they shared as they worked side by side. Every memory was a gentle reminder of the life she lost and the strength she needed to reclaim herself. Later in the afternoon, she walked to the market to buy groceries. It was the only time she felt truly free, stepping outside the gates of that suffocating house. People greeted her with kindness, unaware of the storms she faced behind closed doors. She smiled politely, hiding her bruised heart. At the vegetable stall, an elderly woman named Mrs. Hall noticed her tired eyes. "You've been quiet, dear. Everything all right?" Cora hesitated, just adapting. "Life changes after loss," Mrs. Hall said softly. "But remember, grief is not a chain. Don't let anyone use it against you." The words struck deep. Mrs. Hall didn't know about Mark and Jensen, but she somehow spoke the exact truth Cora needed to hear. When Cora returned home carrying the groceries, she found Jensen sitting on the couch with his feet on the table, beer cans scattered around him. "You're late," he said. I had to get a few things. You take too long for someone with simple tasks." He smirked. "Maybe you enjoy running around like a stray." Before she could answer, Mark came in and kicked one of the cans toward her. "Clean this up." Cora knelt, quietly gathering the trash. Their laughter floated over her like poison. But something in her gaze had shifted just slightly. Not defiance, but awakening. That night, after they went to bed, she sat alone on the living room sofa, staring at the dark window. Her reflection looked unfamiliar, tired, yes, but also stronger. Like a spark had caught fire somewhere inside her chest. She whispered into the silence, "I can't keep living like this." Her words echoed through the empty room. She didn't know how, or when, or what she would do. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. This was not the life Liam wanted for her. This was not the life she would accept. The brothers believed she was weak. They believed she had no options. They believed they owned her pain. But they were wrong. Behind her quiet demeanor, revenge had begun shaping itself, slow, steady, patient. It wasn't fueled by rage, but by clarity, by survival, by the knowledge that if she didn't fight for herself, no one else would. As she went to her room and closed the door behind her, a silent promise formed in her heart. One day soon, they would regret ever underestimating her. And the first step of that revenge had already begun. She simply hadn't told them yet. Cora awoke the next morning with an unusual calmness. As if her mind had already made decisions, her heart had only begun to understand. She dressed quietly and stepped into the hallway. The brothers were still asleep, their snores echoing from their separate rooms. For once, she felt grateful for the noise. They wouldn't notice her movements. She walked outside to the backyard, the cold air brushing gently against her cheeks. The garden looked untouched, lifeless. Forgotten. Everything in that house felt abandoned except the cruelty she endured. But today, Cora wasn't thinking about their insults or the painful memories. Her mind was focused on something else. Freedom. She knew revenge wasn't just about hurting someone. It was about reclaiming the life they tried to take from her. And for that, she needed to be smart. She needed allies. Later that afternoon, she went to the local library where she often spent time before she married Liam. It had always been her safe place, quiet, warm, filled with stories of survival and strength. Inside, she found someone she never expected to see. Liam's best friend, Daniel Dot. Daniel had been away for months. The last time she saw him was at Liam's funeral, when he hugged her and whispered, "If you ever need anything, you come to me." She never had. Until today, Daniel looked up from a table and froze for a moment. "Cora, you look tired. Are you okay?" Her lips parted, but no words came out, not at first. She finally nodded. "I need help, Daniel." Those 4 words were the beginning of something powerful. Daniel pushed out the chair beside him. "Sit, tell me everything." At first, she hesitated. Shame sat heavy in her chest, not because she had done anything wrong, but because the brothers had convinced her she was helpless. But when she started talking, the words poured out like a dam breaking. The insults, the chores, the mocking, the fear, the loneliness. Daniel listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening with each detail. "Those bastards," he muttered under his breath. "Liam would never forgive them for doing this to you." Cora looked down. "I don't want to forgive them." Daniel leaned closer. "What do you want, Cora?" She swallowed. "I want my life back, and I want them to pay for what they've done." Daniel's eyes sharpened with resolve. "Then we'll make it happen." For the first time in months. She felt something warm spreading through her confidence. They spent the next few hours planning carefully. Daniel knew people in town, people who respected Liam and disliked Mark and Jensen's shady dealings. The brothers weren't just cruel, they were irresponsible, drinking excessively, borrowing money they couldn't repay, getting into fights. Daniel explained that several neighbors had complained about them but didn't have the courage to confront them. Cora listened quietly. As the pieces began falling into place, "Your brothers-in-law aren't as strong as they pretend to be," Daniel said. "They're fragile. All we have to do is remove their mask." When Cora returned home, she carried groceries in one hand and a new strength in the other. The moment she opened the door, Jensen barked from the living room, "You're late again." "What were you doing?" For the first time, Cora didn't bow her head. "I had things to do." Jensen scoffed. "Things? What things? You better not be making trouble." She met his eyes and didn't look away. Jensen shifted uncomfortably, not used to seeing her like this. Mark came in, sensing the tension. "What's going on?" he demanded. "Nothing," Jensen said, but he watched Cora carefully. Something felt different about her. For the first time, they were unsure. That night, Cora laid awake, listening to their heavy footsteps upstairs, their drunken laughter, their careless insults. But she felt no fear. The seeds of revenge were planted, and soon they would grow into something the brothers could not escape. Over the next week, Daniel helped her quietly gather information, records of their unpaid loans, complaints from neighbors, videos of their drunken fights. Cora felt a strange thrill every time she collected evidence. She wasn't attacking blindly. She was building a case, brick by brick. Everything they had done in the dark would soon be dragged into the light. On the 7th night, Jensen barged into the kitchen, shouting about his missing wallet. Cora didn't flinch. "Don't look at me," she said calmly. "Maybe you lost it." "You watch your tone," he warned. But the fear in his voice told her everything he could sense. He was losing control. Cora smiled gently. A smile he didn't understand for years. The brothers had believed she was beneath them, that she needed them, that she had nowhere to go. But now she had something stronger than their cruelty. A plan, a purpose. And someone who believed in her. Their downfall had already begun. They just hadn't realized it yet. Tomorrow would be the day everything started to unravel. The next morning began like any other, but something in the air felt different, charged. Heavy, as if the house itself sensed what was coming. Cora stepped into the kitchen, calm and steady. While upstairs the brothers argued loudly about money, debt collectors, and things they had done behind closed doors. Their world was already cracking, and Cora was about to shatter it completely. By noon, Daniel arrived in town with 3 people: a local journalist, an officer who once respected Liam, and a community worker who had received complaints about Mark and Jensen's behavior for months. None of them were coming as friends, they were coming as witnesses, truth tellers. Cora had invited them all. She stood outside the house as they gathered, her heart pounding but her spirit stronger than ever. Daniel placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone anymore," he whispered. Cora nodded. "Let's finish this." They knocked on the door. Jensen opened it, half drunk, irritated. "Who the hell?" He froze when he saw the officer and the journalist's camera. Mark stumbled in behind him. "What's going on?" Cora stepped forward. "Your truth is going on." The journalist smiled politely. "We're here to discuss complaints made by neighbors, disturbances, harassment, money laundering rumors, threats, and the mistreatment of your late brother's wife," Daniel added sharply. Mark's face tightened. "Cora, what did you do?" She looked him directly in the eyes. "I told the truth. Something you both have never done." Inside the living room, the officer began examining the house. Dirty bottles, gambling slips, unpaid loan letters, they had left a trail of disgrace everywhere. The journalist recorded every detail, every stain, every angry outburst that followed. "Turn that camera off," Jensen shouted. "You should have thought of that before," Cora replied calmly. For once, they were the ones shrinking. As questions poured, their lies stumbled, contradicting one another. They shouted, blamed each other. Panicked hand, the camera caught everything. Then came the final blow. Daniel opened a folder and placed it on the table. "These are statements from neighbors, recordings of your threats, footage of your drunken brawls. Proof of the money you borrowed using Liam's name, and the way you treated Cora." Cora watched their faces drain of color. Every sin they committed, every cruelty, every humiliation. Exposed. Jensen suddenly lunged toward Cora. The officer stepped between them. "Touch her and you'll be in handcuffs before your next breath." Jensen stumbled back, trembling with rage he could no longer use. Cora felt no fear. For the first time, she felt power. The community worker clapped her notebook shut. "These men will be removed from this home immediately. They're unfit to live here without supervision." "What?" "This is our house," Mark snapped. "No," Cora said softly. "It was Liam's, and I was his wife. This home belongs to me." Mark froze. Jensen blinked in disbelief. She continued, voice calm but lethal. "You made me feel small, useless, trapped. But today, I take back everything you stole." The officer turned to her. "Ma'am, do you wish to file a formal complaint for harassment and psychological abuse?" Cora didn't even hesitate. "Yes, I do." In less than 30 minutes, the brothers were escorted out, shouting empty threats that no longer mattered. Neighbors watched from their porches, some capturing videos, some whispering in shock. Cora didn't watch them leave. She walked back inside her home, closing the door behind her gently. Peacefully, like closing a chapter she never wanted to open again. Daniel followed her in, his voice soft. "It's over, Cora." She turned toward him, tears in her eyes, not of sadness, but release. "Yes," she whispered. "It's finally over." For the first time in years, silence filled the house. But this silence was warm, not empty. She walked through each room, slowly reclaiming the space that once felt like a prison. She was free and justice was hers. Over the next days, the brothers faced community shame, police investigations, unpaid debts chasing them like shadows. With every consequence, Cora felt lighter, as if every step forward erased a piece of the torment they inflicted. Weeks passed, and Cora rebuilt her life brick by brick. She started working, volunteering, rediscovering the woman she was before pain tried to swallow her. Daniel visited often, not because she needed him, but because he genuinely cared. One evening, as they sat in the garden Liam once tended, Daniel spoke softly. "You're one of the strongest people I've ever met." Cora smiled gently. "I just survived." "No," Daniel corrected. You fought. You rose. And you won. Cora looked up at the warm sky, filled with orange streaks of sunset, and whispered, I hope Liam can see me. Daniel nodded. He would be proud. Found for the first time in a long time, she believed it. Her story wasn't about suffering anymore. It was about strength, courage, and reclaiming her power in a world that tried to break her. Revenge didn't come through violence or darkness. It came through truth, justice, and rising higher than her enemies ever expected. Cora finally breathed freely, deeply knowing she had not just survived. She had triumphed.